the world, the Russians have to be a little ferocious abroad, and that's going on right now. Kennedy will have to deal with this in the 1960s. I think perhaps there is some potential hope for the West in these Chinese-Soviet difficulties, as well as the standard catalog of horrors of which this program seems to be made.
Well, John, it's pretty well agreed that Khrushchev would like to meet at the summit with Kennedy. Why?
Oh, a number of reasons. I think genuinely they would like to negotiate an agreement with us to stop testing nuclear weapons and sign a treaty.
They're serious about that.
I believe they are serious about that. I think also there are the propaganda reasons to kind of quiet us down and make us have a spirit of Camp David, or post-Geneva spirit. And I think finally they want to keep the door open to Washington because someday they may need us, in the simplest terms, to fight the Chinese. The Chinese know this, and this is part of the friction between the two countries.
Senator?
Ambassador Menshikov, the Soviet ambassador, is busy in Washington and New York talking to people in this country, including people who would be members of the administration, about a summit meeting. It's obvious the Russians want it badly. However, President Kennedy is not going to be a great advocate of meeting at the summit, nor is Mr. Dean Rusk when he becomes Secretary of State. They think that you conserve the power, you radiate power from the White House, you build up the power from there. However, what you will see is an attempt by this administration to work on disarmament again, starting with a ban on atomic testing. They really want to try and get something there. At the same time, Kennedy's problem is how to meet Khrushchev's overtures without committing the rest of the world to the idea that he is absolutely negative. This, I think, is his great problem.
Well, Sandy, there's one thing Khrushchev might do if he wants to talk with Kennedy directly. He could come to New York this spring for the session of the General Assembly. And if he can't get Kennedy to Europe, and I doubt there's any chance of that, he might turn up in New York, and he's fairly close to Washington. There might be a meeting.
British views on summitry, Joe?
I think it's going to depend almost entirely, Frank, on what Kennedy administration does. They wanted to go to the summit the last time because they felt the situation was desperate following the Khrushchev threat to Berlin. Since there was no adequate alternate alliance policy being offered, then they decided to go to the summit. If Kennedy can generate a new and vigorous alliance policy, I think they will not worry too much about the summit. But I can imagine circumstances developing in which they would again want to go back to a summit.
Well, de Gaulle's no enthusiast for summit meetings, but I shouldn't think he'd want there to be one without him, so if there is one, he'll be there.
Interesting question, briefly, Jimmy. How would Red China feel about a summit conference?
Oh, she'd be delighted, but only on the condition that Mao Zedong would be there also.
I think that's not likely to happen soon. That's my own opinion. Gentlemen, this brings us near to the end of what John Chancellor has called this catalog of horrors, and I would like now a brief forecast from each of